Kaya. Here are the day's top business stories. US Federal Reserve will announce its rate decision in an hour from now. Investors around the world wait with bated breath. Majority expecting a 75 basis point rate hike. Stock markets on tenterhooks. Sensex and Nifty end volatile session with marginal losses. Auto shines, metal, IT drag. Mayhem continues in the cryptocurrency market. Investors jittery after restrictions imposed by largest exchange, Binance, sell their holdings. Bill Gates joins in trashing virtual assets, calls them a sham. Big Business Today TV Newsbreak confirmed 5G spectrum auction approved by the Union Cabinet will deliver 10 times the data speed available today. Auctions to be on 26th of July. Group of ministers on GST rate rationalization meet this Friday. Sources say big decisions may be unlikely given the present economic conditions. Government taking extra care with the steps which could trigger further inflation. Big blow to India agri exports. UAE prohibits Indian wheat exports for 4 months. Restrictions apply to both wheat and wheat flour. Sources say the West Asian Emirate is concerned about phytosanitary conditions. Global stock markets have been in a volatile phase with a negative bias now for some time. Rising inflation worldwide has become the bone of contention for central banks and economists across the world. Investors remain convinced that a fresh 40-year peak in US inflation will prompt the Fed to take up more aggressive hikes in COVID-era interest rates and in turn hamper economic growth. The Fed Reserve may be looking to raise interest rates by 75 basis points. That's the biggest hike in 28 years. But a bigger surprise later today could be if the Fed only hikes rates by 50 basis points. However, markets have braced for a hawkish Fed. Investors will be looking for signals that the central bank is willing to get even tougher with rate hikes.
If the Fed decides to raise rates by 75 basis points at this June meeting, I think it's going to put additional pressure on consumers because now they're going to have to pay more in terms of interest rates to borrow, to buy a car, to buy a home, etc. It won't, however, have an effect on gasoline prices because that's more dependent on fuel availability, supply chain disruptions, and the tensions still occurring in the Ukraine.
Indian equity benchmarks failed to hold on to the green in yet another choppy session. Losses in oil and gas and IT shares pulling headline indices lower. Gains in financials and auto stocks limited the downside somewhat. Domestic indices were muted as global investors treaded cautiously in anticipation of aggressive rate hike action by the US Fed Reserve. The Nifty declined for the 4th day in a row and ended below 15,700. Sensex 2 slipping 152 points at 52,541. However, the broader market managed to sustain in the green. Among some of the top laggards today on the index, ONGC, NTPC, Infi, Wipro, Coal India, while the gainers were Bajaj Finserv, Bajaj Finance, Tata Motors, Hero Moto and Grasim. The big news break yesterday by Business Today TV on the Union Cabinet having approved the spectrum pricing for 5G auctions, which will usher in 10 times faster data speeds than available currently, was confirmed this morning. The government on Wednesday approved a proposal to auction high-speed 5th generation or 5G telecom spectrum for 20 years starting July 26. Radio waves totaling 72 gigahertz with 20 years of validity will be auctioned across the low, mid and high frequency bands. The government has also decided to do away with upfront payment for airwaves. The successful bidders can pay the 5G spectrum in 20 annual installments. Let's head across to Business Today TV's Chetan Bhutani, who first broke the story here on Business Today. Chetan, what does 5G spectrum auction mean for India's telecom sector?
That's right, Abha. Business Today TV was the first to break the story on the Union Cabinet taking up the approval of 5G spectrum auctions. Well, now it's been confirmed after nearly 24 hours of wait. Well, in a big move, the Union Cabinet on Wednesday approved the auction of 5G spectrum, which means that India could soon see 5G And the reality would be that it would be about 10 times more faster than the current 4G network. Well, a total of about 72 gigahertz of spectrum will be put to auction for a time span of about 20 years. And the auction will be held in low, medium, and high frequency bands, with telecom companies opting favorably in favor of the medium and the high frequency bands. Well, the significant relief for telecom companies is that they don't have to pay the upfront amount, and the government has done away with this clause, and instead they'll be allowed to pay in about 20 EMIs for 20 years, starting each of every year. Well, the auction of airways is set to begin on July 26th, and as per the notice inviting tender, which is the most crucial document which sets the timeline, the last date of application for submission of bids is about July 8th. Well, the government has also allowed setting up of private capital networks to enable new age companies in artificial intelligence and innovation. So clearly, in times to come, we could soon see 5G being a reality in India.
Great, Chetan. Thanks so much for joining us with that big news break. Now, a crucial meeting of the group of ministers on GST rate rationalization is likely on the 17th of June. On its agenda, rationalization of GST rates as well as merger of GST slabs to make the procedure smoother and hassle-free. For more information, we're joined by my colleague Mahima Chaudhary. Mahima, what's the big agenda of this meeting?
Well, right, the big aspect on the agenda has to be on the merger of slabs that GST GOM on rate rationalization will be looking at. In fact, if a report is prepared well within time, then the same will also go to GST Council, which is likely to convene in the first week of July as per sources. That's going to be the 47th GST Council. Now, the last time that a group of ministers on rate rationalization met, they took certain decision on rolling back the hike in GST that they had decided on textiles. Now, this meeting could also, in fact, discuss on the correction of inverted duty scheme on textiles. Besides this, the government may also take a call to refer to certain other issues on hike in GST or on slab mergers on certain products that could be considered. Well, only if the report is finalized, this will go to the council and a final decision will only be taken by the council. We are also being told that Fitment Committee has met multiple times to also discuss, and a report has been submitted to the group of ministers on rate rationalization.
All right, Karishma, thanks so much for joining us with that. The 3-day World Trade Organization Ministerial Conference in Geneva has been extended by a day to allow participating nations to come to an agreement. The developed and developing nations have been at loggerheads over nearly every issue discussed, while the West has hardened positions on the issue of patent waiver on COVID-19 vaccines, drugs and equipment. Developing countries, led by India, are pressing for a balanced outcome on fisheries and agriculture issues. For more on the deadlock, let's go to Rahul Srivastava, National Affairs Editor, who is currently covering the event in Geneva. Rahul, take us through all the latest.
The news from the Ministerial Conference 12th at the WTO in Geneva is not very good. 164 countries had gathered to perhaps create a solution and agreement on 3 very critical issues: agriculture, fisheries and TRIPS waiver on vaccines, drugs and equipment. From the day one, contradictory positions have been taken by advanced nations and developing nations and the less developed countries. The end result is a virtual lack of consensus of any one of them. Primarily what is being seen is that entrenched positions are such which are signaling that more and more people may eventually like to go back home with no outcomes instead of having a bad outcome. The Director General of WTO, in an effort to push for some solution, something to take back home, has extended the WTO conference by 1 more day. But is that going to have an impact? Not really. Sources are telling us that on the issue of agriculture, countries like India are extremely clear. There is going to be no dilution as far as the demand for a permanent solution on the stock holdings is concerned or the subsidies to farmers is concerned. On the issue of fisheries, countries like India are now very clear that polluters pays first concept needs to be applied. The big nations have big trawlers, big companies fishing beyond their national waters. And they are demanding that there should be a removal of subsidy as far as small fishermen in countries like India are concerned. Nations have very small fishing communities. A country like India has almost 90 lakh fishermen who are dependent on government subsidies. Without them, their subsistence will be very difficult. On the issue of TRIPS waiver, yet again, virtually no consensus, as countries like India, South Africa and others are very clear that there needs to be an effort, a response by the WTO to the pandemic in a way that countries prepare for a future pandemic also, not just the current one. India has contested that vaccines in lakhs are getting waste because of expiry dates, but big companies are not ready to part with the technology to create vaccines and improve access to vaccines, despite the fact that in poor countries like in Africa especially, a large number of people are yet to be vaccinated, while the developed countries have already seen 3 doses being administered. Now, if all these issues don't get worked out, there is also a serious question mark over the WTO's capability to handle global trade and issues related to it. Will WTO eventually come up with a solution? The next 24 hours will tell. In Geneva, Rahul Srivastava for India Today.
All right, Rahul, thanks so much for joining us with that. We're going to take a very quick break here on the Business Today show. When we return, it's all about crypto and the massive fall that we are seeing in the cryptocurrency market. Back in just a moment.
Last week was marked by terrible news of popular actor Mahima Chaudhary getting diagnosed with breast cancer. She's come out in the open talking about her illness. This is our space to have a conversation about breast cancer. Here's all that you need to know. There is just 1% chance of a man developing breast cancer. In a woman, it is actually the most common type of cancer that's seen. What are the symptoms that one should be looking out for? Any sort of change in the size of the breast, a lump in the corner, or any discharge from the breast, pain in the breast, a discharge from the nipples.
Welcome back. It's the peak summer here with temperatures reaching 50 degrees in parts of the country. But for crypto investors, the winter is getting worse. These extreme risk takers have seen their crypto fortunes collapse in the past few weeks. And it's not just the average retail investors hoping to make a quick buck. The big boys of the crypto world have seen their billions evaporate in the ongoing meltdown. From 19 crypto billionaires worldwide just a few months ago, there are only 2 that are left. 7 of the world's richest crypto founders have lost a combined $114 billion since November. Here's more on the deep winter in the world of crypto assets.
जो इन्वेस्टर्स क्रिप्टो करेंसी में इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, उनको ये माइंड में रखना चाहिए कि जो भी वो इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं वो उनके खुद के रिस्क पे कर रहे हैं. दे आर इन्वेस्टिंग एट देयर ओन रिस्क. उनको ये भी माइंड में रखना चाहिए ये जो क्रिप्टो करेंसी है इसका कोई अंडरलाइंग नहीं है, नॉट इवन अ ट्यूलिप.
Few paid heed to this warning just 4 months ago, dismissing it as yet another effort by the government and regulators to undermine the new age, high-return world of cryptocurrencies. The same investors are licking their financial wounds now. Bitcoin, the flagship crypto, is down and around 70% since hitting its lifetime high of $67,000 in November. Ether is down 76% from its high and 37% in just a week. Binance has lost 2/3 of its value from its lifetime high in November. Cardano is down a whopping 85%, while Ripple has lost 80% of its value. It's been a big fall from grace for the crypto markets, valued at more than $3 trillion just 8 months ago, larger than even India's GDP, to a little less than $900 billion today.
While small investors have heavily lost in this financial rout, crypto billionaires have not been spared either. A couple of months ago, there were a total 19 crypto billionaires, and now there are just 2. Changpeng Zhao, the richest of them all, saw his wealth erode from $65 billion to a mere $10 billion.
Analysts cite various reasons for this fall, ranging from steep global inflation to hike rates by central banks across the world. There's also the regulatory squeeze in several countries, including India, where cryptocurrencies have not been banned, but their trading is discouraged via high taxes, payment restrictions, and uncertainty due to absence of laws. However, it is the crash in confidence amongst investors which has pulled the rug. First, there was the crash of Terra Luna this month. It lost its peg to the US dollar and saw its value vanishing into thin air. Then, one of the world's largest decentralized finance platforms, Celsius, stopped all trading to prevent a run on its deposits. At its peak, Celsius was managing $20 billion belonging to around 2 million investors. On Monday, the world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, restricted trading for more than 24 hours.
For a once sunrise industry, these are the darkest times yet. Major crypto players like BlockFi, Gemini, Coinbase, etc. have all stopped hiring and have rescinded offers. Moreover, they have also let go of thousands of people. How long will this crypto winter last? Nobody is willing to take a guess. This was Akanksha Chaturvedi for Business Today TV.
We're now joined by our in-house crypto reporter, Akanksha Chaturvedi, and a panel of experts, including Rajagopal Menon, Vice President, WazirX, Smith Kakkar, Tech Diligence, Delta Blockchain Fund. Akanksha, let me come to you first. What are some of the current rates? What are the kind of volatility that we've seen, the kind of drop that we've seen? And then I'll also go across to our experts.
Yes, Abha, like you just mentioned, that the crypto markets are witnessing a crash. The global market cap has fallen around 5%. It's currently at around $905 billion as we speak. Bitcoin has fallen to its December 2020 levels. It's trading at around $21,000. It has also fallen 5% in the last 24 hours. Ethereum, which is the second most valuable cryptocurrency, it has also fallen. It has taken a deep dive of around 8% in the last 24 hours and it is trading at around $1,100. Over to you, Abha.
All right, thanks for that, Akanksha. Smith, what are some of the factors that have been causing or that are to blame for the kind of crash we've seen in the crypto market?
Multiple factors for the same. First of which being the fall of Terra Luna, which happened a month ago. So multiple companies were connected to Terra Luna, the Luna coin and UST coin by Terra Labs. So fall of that led to like close to $20 billion wiped out of the crypto market. And it had a domino effect on other projects as well. So as retail investors lost a lot of money, there's a lot of fear, uncertainty and doubt in the market. So this led to, death spiral of multiple coins, multiple projects started failing. Recently in the last week, multiple projects which, hold billions of dollars worth of TVL are facing liquidity crisis, liquidity crunch, wherein a lot of retail investors had invested money. So during such cases, when retail investors try to pull out the money, these companies start liquidating their crypto assets, which led to the fall of coins. So if retail investors start withdrawing money from these platforms have to sell their holding in order to give withdrawals to the users. This led to fall of the entire crypto market.
Sure. Rajagopal Menon, how has this impacted Indian investors? If we take a closer look, how deep is the impact here?
So Abha, we'd just like to zoom out a little. Since the start of the new year, things have not been very nice at a nice place for the global economy. You had rising interest rates because of high inflation. You had a war. You have a war in Europe. China's supply chain woes, because of their zero COVID policy. So overall, the world economy is not in a very good shape, which has affected prices of sectors across the spectrum. So just to give you a perspective, Netflix is down by 75% over the last 6 months. Zomato, which is an Indian company, is down by about 50%. You are an expert in the BSE and NSE. They've also had a free fall in the last 2 or 3 days. So the focus to blame Bitcoin and crypto for a crash, yes, it's a part of a larger global economy. Now, to compound all that, in India we've had a couple of unique situations. One is in the budget, the finance minister announced a 30% tax plus a 1% TDS on every crypto transaction that happens. What that has happened is that after the 1st of April, most people who trade heavily in the crypto exchanges have stopped trading. Volumes are down substantially. So that has led to a severe fall in volumes, which is why, and the banks are also not very comfortable working with crypto exchanges. So those are the 3 factors that have affected volumes in the crypto exchanges at this point of time: the global economy, the new tax laws, plus the banks refusing to work with crypto exchanges.
Okay, Smith, so then has this crash also affected other Web.3 companies?
Yes, this has definitely affected a lot of Web3 companies. So companies who were directly invested into UST, Luna, or were holding their treasury or the treasury wallet balances in these coins or volatile coins, definitely took a hit. Now, globally, trading in crypto, volumes in crypto are going down. So a lot of international exchanges have started laying off people due to the decrease in volumes. So this has definitely affected a lot of Web3 companies and the crypto ecosystem.
Okay, Rajagopal, could you also help us understand why Binance, with which WazirX is involved, stopped all withdrawals on its platform?
No, that is, I think what had happened was that there was one transaction for a Bitcoin withdrawal that got stuck, which was a very large transaction. So Binance had temporarily paused withdrawals for Bitcoin for a brief period of time. I think this was yesterday. That was for about half an hour. And now things are back to normal, is my guess, unless you know more than I do. But that's what happened. One transaction got stuck, which acted as a bottleneck.
Okay, Smith, what about, some clarity on how the crash has impacted VC funding for crypto projects? I think I read somewhere about one small or mid-sized company getting funded just yesterday, but these are, of course, smaller packages. Do you think it'll have an overall impact on the kind of flow we're seeing for crypto projects?
Yeah, definitely. If you ask me, this is probably the best time for VC companies to fund a project, because during this time you get better valuations, you get only serious teams, serious projects looking to build out the best projects with the best tech minds. Now, if you look at the current bull market of 2022, 2023, 2021, 2022, the best companies, the rockstar companies, which gave like multi-fold return to investors, were all formed in the bear market of 2017 to 2020. And there has been some, decrease in funding, but the best projects which were, which has the best minds, which are actually solving the problems, are getting funded every day. Like, I personally know a lot of companies which got funded recently last week.
Yeah.
So funding has slowed down a bit, valuations have come down a bit, but this is the best time for VCs to invest into good projects.
Okay. Rajagopal, are Indian investors looking at this dip then as a buying opportunity despite the heavy taxation that's been applied on the sector?
Abha, what has happened is that trading levels have dropped. So, the day traders, the high frequency traders, the algo traders, that volume has come down substantially to the tune of about 60%. What that leaves is small investors, retail investors like yours truly, people who believe in crypto. So what they're doing is that and I'm assuming that this is true for investors the world over, is that they use this opportunity to buy small portions of their favorite coins or tokens. It's called dollar cost averaging, where you buy little chunks of your favorite tokens over a period of time to average your costs lower. So yes, a lot of people whom we call hodlers are actually buying their favorite cryptos and sitting on it and saying that, okay, fine, we'll ride it out. We will see what happens 3 to 5 years later, which is how you should be investing.
All right. So, Smith, what are people and investors saying? I know I asked Rajagopal this as well. You know, after Celsius and Binance stopped all withdrawals, what's your take on it?
Yeah, so Binance definitely enabled the withdrawals in a few hours. So that's the best news until now. Celsius still hasn't enabled the withdrawals, and most of the retail Celsius investors into Celsius, most of them are retail investors, because Celsius was giving out good returns, 7 to 8% compared to what US banks give. And majority of the investors in Celsius are retail investors from the US. So this definitely is a bit of a dicey thing. Once Celsius opens up withdrawals, this would definitely be a big relief for crypto market, and looks like the market would stabilize a bit if Celsius enables the withdrawals.
All right, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us and taking us through some of the latest developments in the crypto world, Web3, and lots more. Thanks for joining us. That's about all we could pack into this edition of the show tonight. Thanks so much for watching.
The tenure of President Ramnath Kovind is coming to an end. With that, the 16th presidential elections are set in motion. So who will be the next first citizen of the country? Here's how the world's biggest democracy elects its president. The presidential elections are conducted by the Election Commission of India. Article 54 of the Indian Constitution states that only elected members of the Parliament and legislative assemblies of state and union territories are eligible to cast their votes in the polls. This means that no nominated member of either House of the Parliament or the assemblies can participate.
Presented by Berger Easy Clean. No dog, no dhabba, only beautiful walls.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Pooja Shali. Let's begin first with the headlines. Congress versus Delhi police on the third day of Rahul Gandhi's questioning by the ED. Congress accuses police of entering inside the Congress headquarters and beating workers. ED summons the Congress MP again on Friday. No consensus on a single candidate at meeting called by Mamata Banerjee to decide on an opposition candidate for president. Aam Aadmi Party and the TRS skipped the meeting. Sharad Pawar says no. Left proposes Gopal Gandhi, who is Mahatma's grandson. Bengal teenager is behind bars for opposing the rioters. ABVP man also arrested in Coimbatore for supporting Nupur Sharma. Is the plot set to unravel on singer Moosewala's murder? Punjab cops get Lawrence Bishnoi gangsters custody. Murder threat to Salman Khan is being probed. Kerala gold scam fallout simmers. BJP takes to the streets against Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan. Water cannons used against protesters. Accused Swapna Suresh is defiant, says will not withdraw the statement. Is this end of an era too? Goodbye Internet Explorer. Microsoft retires its 27-year-old browser. Netizens getting expectedly nostalgic. Rahul Gandhi's day 3 of ED questioning is still underway. He's been questioned, remember, for nearly 8 hours. The counting is still on. The capital saw today also, which is the third day, a fiery twist to the Congress anger for Rahul Gandhi. Tires were burnt in the heart of VVIP zone of New Delhi. There was also arson in the national capital, Delhi, but a Congress neta in Maharashtra went on an abusive rant against Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Here's what happened through the day as Congress supporters and protesters were out on the streets in solidarity for Rahul Gandhi.
Tires set ablaze. Thick black smoke outside ED office in the heart of Delhi. Tense standoff with cops. Fiery standoff, unruly protest and fisticuffs and raging Congress cadre, all for Rahul Gandhi.
Look at the visuals. This is just outside the ED office and this is nothing less than arsoning. Tires being burned on a busy stretch of road, putting the traffic on a hold. Just look at these visuals. Now these protesters are running away. Sir, tires नहीं जला सकते. जला सकते आप ये मोदी साहब के. सर आप नहीं सर आप रास्ते पे ट्रैफिक में करने से मजबूर है हम लोग. क्या कर सकते हैं इसमें? क्यों ये इतनी पुलिस लगा रखी है आप उसको प्रोटेस्ट आप सत्याग्रह कह रहे हैं क्या? गांधी जी ने सत्याग्रह में टायर ऐसे में ये रॉन्ग है ना मैम. टायर्स जलाना भी गलत है. ये रॉन्ग नहीं है क्योंकि these protesters are refusing to understand the meaning of satyagraha. This is an extremely busy stretch. It has to be repeated that this kind of arsoning can actually put a risk of life.
Day 3 of Rahul Gandhi's grilling at the ED office took a furious turn when Congress entered a chaotic face-off with the Delhi police. Congress claimed that Delhi police barged into its headquarters and assaulted its cadre. Images captured dozens of Congress leaders and workers in a tense standoff with Delhi police and other security personnel outside the party's headquarters on Akbar Road.
राजनीतिक दल का कार्यालय है और उसमें पुलिस घुसे और वहाँ लाठीचार्ज करे तो ये साहस दिल्ली पुलिस की नहीं हो सकती. ये निर्देश मिला है ऊपर से और ये वही ताकत है जो लोकतंत्र में विश्वास नहीं करते. जो यदि राजनीतिक विचारधारा उसके अलग है तो उसको समाप्त कर देना चाहते हैं, कुचल देना चाहते हैं.
Despite Congress fury on roads, there's no let-up in ED's marathon grilling. According to ED sources, Rahul has been evasive and giving tutored answers. ED officials questioning Rahul are not satisfied with the answers of the former Congress president, saying he's changing them often. With Shreya Chatterjee, Supriya Bharadwaj and Munish Pandey in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Politics continues to rage on over Rahul Gandhi's Enforcement Directorate questioning. Maharashtra Congress Neta hurled a highly objectionable slur at the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, drawing anger and outrage.
फालतू के काम करना बंद करो, नहीं तो नरेंद्र मोदी तेरा वही हाल होगा. फिर आप क्या बोलेंगे कि जैसे की मौत होती है ऐसे नरेंद्र मोदी की मौत होगी.
Congress Neta resorting to open, sickening abuse. In his aggressive defense of Rahul Gandhi, this Congress leader, Sheikh Hussain from Maharashtra, got on camera hurling filthy abuses in public at the Prime Minister, saying Narendra Modi will die like a street dog if he continues to target Rahul Gandhi and not focus on national issues. Listen once again to this shocking hate rant from a senior Congress leader.
तुमको लोगों ने देश को विकास करने के लिए दिया है. 70 साल में कांग्रेस ने किया, उसी को बेच कर तुम देश चला रहे हो। तुम कुछ कर नहीं रहे। ये फालतू के काम करना बंद करो, नहीं तो नरेंद्र मोदी तेरा वही हाल होगा। फिर अब क्या बोलेंगे कि जैसे की मौत होती है ऐसे नरेंद्र मोदी की मौत होगी।
That's right. He actually said it. A Congress leader in the presence of two Maharashtra ministers who don't stop him, telling the Prime Minister that he will die like a street dog.
फालतू के काम करना बंद करो, नहीं तो नरेंद्र मोदी तेरा वही हाल होगा। फिर अब क्या बोलेंगे कि जैसे की मौत होती है ऐसे नरेंद्र मोदी की मौत होगी।
The Congress Neta also warned that the country will burn if Rahul or Sonia Gandhi are harmed in any way.
अगर उनके बाल को भी जरा सा धक्का लगेगा तो इस देश के अंदर में अंगार लग जाएगी, इस देश को ये बर्बाद हो जाएगा। कुछ कर नहीं रहे।
Speaking to India today, an unapologetic Sheikh Hussain justified his attack.
मेरे दिल में कोई मलाल नहीं, मैंने कुछ गलत भी नहीं बोला और मैंने कोई ऐसी गलती की ही नहीं। मैंने एक मुहावरा दिया सिर्फ, वो समझे क्या, उसमें कोई गलत नहीं है।
The BJP expectedly has torn into the Congress for this abuse on the Prime Minister, saying that the opposition has finally shown its true ugly face.
देखिए, इस प्रकार के घृणित बयान प्रतिक्रिया के योग्य नहीं है, परंतु यह कांग्रेस की क्षुद्रता और मानसिक स्तर की सीमा तक पहुंच गया है, यह उसका क्रमशः प्रमाण है।
The unfolding drama, coupled with what's been happening in Delhi, has set off a huge fight between the BJP and the Congress in the backdrop of Rahul Gandhi being questioned on day 3 by the Enforcement Directorate.
कांग्रेस के मुख्यालय में, भारतीय राष्ट्रीय कांग्रेस के दफ्तर में जबरन कैसे घुस सकते हैं, कैसे किसी के घर के अंदर जाकर लाठीचार्ज कर सकते हैं।
पहले भ्रष्टाचार में जो 2000 करोड़ का गबन किया गया उस पर तो साइलेंस है, परंतु अब कोई इंटिमिडेशन कर दे, एजेंसीज को सवाल पूछने का मौका ना मिले, एजेंसीज को सच तक पहुंचने का मौका ना मिले, इसीलिए वायलेंस पर उतर आए हैं।
The ruling Mahavikas Aghadi in Maharashtra is on the back foot over this withering personal attack on Modi.
फालतू के काम करना बंद करो, नहीं तो नरेंद्र मोदी तेरा वही हाल होगा। फिर अब क्या बोलेंगे कि जैसे की मौत होती है ऐसे नरेंद्र मोदी की मौत होगी।
An FIR has been lodged against the Maharashtra Congress leader for obscenity and for provoking breach of peace. With Pankaj Khelkar in Pune, Bureau Report, India Today.
At the center of the ED investigation into the National Herald case is a Kolkata-based company, Dotex Merchandise Private Limited. BJP alleges Dotex is a shell company providing hawala money to Young Indian Limited to buy out the AGL's 90 crore rupees debt. India Today separates now for you facts from fiction. Take a look.
At the center of the Rahul Gandhi National Herald Young Indian Limited case is one company, Dotex Merchandise Private Limited. It has been shrouded in mystery till now. According to the Registrar of Companies, Dotex Merchandise Private Limited is a financially active company. It reported a turnover of over 4 crores in 2019-20, which increased to 7 crore 87 lakh 2,566 rupees in 2020-21. The company is associated and part of the wider RP Sanjeev Goenka group. In its official filings, it has used the email rpsg.secretarial@rpsg.in. Dotex Merchandise Private Limited's official address, Akashdeep, 5 Lower Roden Street, flat number 3, 4th floor, Kolkata, is also owned by another RP Sanjeev Goenka group-linked company. When India Today visited the office in Kolkata, this is what we found.
This is the registered property of Dotex India, Dotex Merchandise Private Limited. Now, when we went there, it did not look like an office. It was a guest house. It is a 3 BHK guest house. We spoke to the caretaker, who stated that people do come over here, the owners do come over here at certain times. However, when we went over there, it no one apart from the caretaker was here. What he mentioned was that this is Dotex office for the past 20 years.
Dotex is owned by two shareholding companies, Ritushri Vanijaya Private Limited and Salty Commercial Private Limited. Both Ritushri Vanijaya and Salty Commercial have 50% ownership each of Dotex. Ritushri Vanijaya and Salty Commercial became shareholders of Dotex on 29th May 2010. All three have the same address, that is owned by RP Sanjeev Goenka linked Philips Carbon Black Limited. Dotex's half owner, Ritushri Vanijaya Private Limited, is further owned by 7 different companies linked to RP Sanjeev Goenka Group. The BJP alleges that Dotex is a shell company that gave Young Indian Limited a loan of 1 crore rupees, out of which 50 lakhs was used to buy out National Herald's 90 crore debt.
जो कांग्रेस के कार्यकर्ता आज दिल्ली में एकत्रित हुए हैं वो राहुल गांधी जी से पूछिए कि गांधी खानदान का संबंध डोटेक्स मर्चेंडाइज प्राइवेट लिमिटेड से क्या है?
India Today's deep dive has decoded the Dotex connection. With Ankit Kumar in Delhi and Suryagni Roy in Kolkata, Bureau Report, India Today.
No consensus was reached yet on a single candidate at the meeting which was called by Bengal Chief Minister Mahima Chaudhary to decide on an opposition candidate for president. Aam Aadmi Party and the TRS skipped the meeting. Sharad Pawar declined the candidacy to remain in active politics. Meanwhile, it was the left parties now proposing the name of Gopal Krishna Gandhi, who is the grandson of Mahatma Gandhi.
The race to Raisina Hill intensifies. Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee is the first of the bloc, taking the initiative to stitch a united opposition front. The long-awaited meeting of opposition leaders, called by the TMC leader on Wednesday, agreed on fielding a single candidate. Mamata once again pitched NCP Supremo Sharad Pawar for the post, but he declined.
Though I personally, even all the members of the meeting, they unanimously suggested Sharad Pawar's name. If he is agreed, everybody will give him support. And if not, then the name should be come from the political parties.
Sources tell India Today that Mamata also floated former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Farooq Abdullah's name. The left parties, according to sources, have suggested Mahatma Gandhi's grandson and intellectual Gopal Krishna Gandhi. Another meet is expected in a week's time. The meeting was attended by Sharad Pawar, Samajwadi Chief Akhilesh Yadav, Congress leaders Randeep Surjewala, Mallikarjun Kharge and PDP's Mehbooba Mufti among others. But in a big blow to Mamata, the TRS and the Aam Aadmi Party skipped the meet. According to sources, the TRS did not want to share a platform with the Congress.
All they were there. So only 1-2 party may be left out because they have some reason, maybe they are busy or sometimes. But all we have decided, there will be only one consensus candidate.
Mamata Banerjee's meet to unite the opposition has also exposed the fault lines within. 4 major regional parties, TRS, YSR Congress, BJD and Aam Aadmi Party stayed away. And without the support of at least 3 of these parties, the fight for president's post could become just a symbolic contest. Bureau Report, India Today.
Punjab police finally got the custody of Lawrence Bishnoi, the gangster, for the next 7 days. Now, the gangster has been given a top-notch security because there is a threat to his life. So, will he spill the beans this time about Sidhu Moosewala's murder plot that the police believes he is the mastermind of?
A bulletproof car, 100 policemen standing guard, and heavily armed commandos. This is the top-notch level of security for the grilling of dreaded gangster and suspected mastermind of the Sidhu Moosewala murder. Gangster Lawrence Bishnoi, being grilled by Special Investigation Team and Anti-Gangster Task Force personnel after the Punjab police got his custody for 7 days.
This gangster who was brought on one-day transit remand, he was produced in the Mansa court which remanded him to police custody. Though the gangster during the Delhi police questioning has not confessed that he is behind Sidhu Moosewala's murder conspiracy.
किस तरह की सिक्योरिटी है, क्या कमांडो आप कर सकते हैं? बिल्कुल सिक्योरिटी की इसके लिए जो है सफिशिएंट सिक्योरिटी हम कर रहे हैं, उसमें कमांडो भी है, उसमें लोकल है, उसमें हमारी जो पैरामिलिट्री है वो भी है.
India Today had earlier tracked the gangsters' high security convoy.
ये सारी चीजें जल्दी पंजाब पुलिस ने इसलिए की क्योंकि एक तो ये गाड़ियों का काफिला काफी लंबा है. पंजाब पुलिस की अपनी 12 से 15 गाड़ियां हैं. इसके अलावा लोकल जिस जगह से ये गुजर रहे हैं वहां की लोकल एस्कॉर्ट इन्हें मिल रहा है और 50 से ज्यादा सुरक्षा कर्मी है.
The Punjab police are trying to unravel the Moosewala murder plot and trace the Lawrence Bishnoi gang's sharpshooters who actually pulled the trigger in Mansa, Punjab. The death threat letter to Salman Khan may also come up for probe.
बिश्नोई, सलमान खान को आपने धमकी दिलवाई? हैं? सिद्धू मूसेवाला मरवाया?
India Today's Arvind Ojha is the only crime reporter to confront Lawrence Bishnoi, asking him about his crimes. Lawrence Bishnoi is being grilled over gang rivalry and the weapon used by the killers of Moosewala. The Punjab police have revealed to India Today that the gangster, so far, is not cooperating. With Manjeet Sehgal, Arvind Ojha and Himanshu Mishra in Mohali, Bureau Report, India Today.
The Salman Khan threat case seems to be back to square one. Gangster Saurabh Mahakal, who was in touch with the Bishnoi gang members, misled the police personnel with information that 3 men who allegedly threatened superstar Salman Khan. But in reality, when the facts were checked, those 3 men were already in jail when the incident took place. Here's a report now to exactly what happened.
The Salman Khan death threat case took a bizarre turn on Wednesday, and it was Mumbai police which was left quite red-faced by the developments. Arrested gangster Saurabh Mahakal spilled the names of 3 gangsters to police who he said had threatened the Bollywood superstar. It was only later that Mumbai police realized it had been taken for a ride by Mahakal because all the 3 men named are already doing time in jail. Saurabh Mahakal claimed that the 3 men were from Rajasthan and worked in a factory in Palghar. Police, after visiting the factory in Palghar, found out that they were not employed there. In truth, the men named by the gangster were arrested for looting a jewelry shop in Rajasthan, Sirohi, and were behind bars much before the day Salman got the threat letter. Salman Khan and his father received death threats on June 5 in a letter left at Mumbai's Bandra bandstand. The threat letter said they would meet the same fate as singer Moosewala. Lawrence Bishnoi, now established as the man who got Moosewala murdered, is suspected to be behind the threat letter. He had threatened the actor in 2018 too.
जब हम करेंगे तो पता लग ही जाएगा. सलमान खान का करेंगे, मारेंगे ही जाएंगे. जोधपुर में मारेंगे तो पता लग जाएगा इनको. अभी तो मैंने कुछ किया ही नहीं, बिना मतलब कोई इन्वॉल्व कर.
But Mumbai police are yet to find out clinching evidence to nail Bishnoi, and Saurabh Mahakal appears to be doing everything to protect his associate Lawrence Bishnoi. Bureau Report, India Today.
Time for a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. Lots more on the other side.
India Today Group wins big again. Bags 37 awards at the NT Awards 2022. Aaj Tak triumphs with 18 awards. India Today TV with 12 awards. Aajtak.in and IndiaToday.in with 5 awards. And Good News Today with 2 awards, making the group proud once again. India Today Group, the gold standard of journalism.
김현우 총리소원께서는 장교연의 이제 8기 어처전에서 인민들의 생활상 영우를 기준으로 내세우고 생산 투쟁을 돌릴 수 있는 가업지수였습니다. 그래서 우리 공장에서는 인민들이 좋아하는 이런 샴푸, 그다음에
체류 비사망 체계에 맞게 소득 사업을 제일 순위에 놓고 진행하고 있습니다. 특히 인민 소비품을 생산하는 공장으로서 바다 소득과 기대들에 대한 소득 사업을 그 어느 때보다 더 강화하고 있습니다.
In yet another crackdown on free speech in Bengal, a teenager has been arrested for a social media post against communal riots. 19-year-old Ashwini did was slam the rioters after her house was attacked. This is not limited to Bengal. Similar crackdowns are being seen in Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu, and specifically those if they're supporting Nupur Sharma or talking about sanity or appealing for peace. Take a look.
Is this not intolerance? Youngsters jailed for their social media posts. In Uddhav's Maharashtra, in Stalin's Tamil Nadu, in Mamata's Bengal. Remember, it was India Today that brought national attention to the case of young student Saad Ansari, who was beaten up, assaulted, and then jailed for a post where he had backed Nupur Sharma. A similar tale of intolerance in Tamil Nadu, where this man has been arrested in Coimbatore. And why? Because he supported Nupur Sharma. 24-year-old Karthi, a former ABVP leader, shared Nupur's video and defended the now suspended BJP spokesperson, prompting his arrest. And now, this girl you see on your screens, all of 19, is behind bars. She didn't support Nupur Sharma. She didn't speak of any community. She actually just slammed the rioters. 19-year-old Ashwini faced protests. These rioters took the law into their own hands, pelted stones at a police station, and attacked her house. And how did the police respond? No, they didn't book the rioters. They actually jailed Ashwini instead.
এটা খারাপ কি লিখেছে খারাপ কিছু যদি লিখতো যে যদি কোনো উল্লেখ করে কিছু যদি লিখতো যদি যে কোনো সাম্প্রদায়িক দল বা কোনো ভাই সাহেব মুসলমান হ্যাঁ এই হিসাবে যদি ও লিখতো তাহলে এটা আলাদা ব্যাপার ছিল
So what did Ashwini say in her post? She simply demanded that these rioters who resorted to violence in her state should be sent out of India, prompting violence on the streets of Howrah.
Stones were pelted, pointing the locals' residents, and as you can see, that this is the road connecting National Highway to this locality. Several houses were damaged. We can see that the stone were pelted, pointing towards the glass windows.
যা অবস্থা হয়েছিল যে পরের দিন যে আমরা বাজবো আত্মীয়স্বজন ফোন করছে মানে আমাদের কি গিয়েছে আমরা জানি এইটুকুন বলতে পারবো আর কিছু কি বলবো দাদা তারপরে তো পুলিশ যদি না আসতো ওই 10 মিনিটে যে আরো অনেক কিছু হতে পারত
The BJP meanwhile has condemned this crackdown on a teenager and offered legal help as well to Ashwini's family.
A mob surrounded her house and the police arrested her rather. So in the same matter, the state said that sometimes it is safe to stay in the jail. So regarding the same, I have made my submissions and the Honorable Court has taken cognizance and they have asked the state to file a report regarding her arrest. So the matter will be taken up soon.
The very same political leaders who have time and again spoken of the BJP's intolerance and exposed the ruling party now stand guilty of maintaining a symbolic silence, of shining examples of intolerance in their own states, at least as much as those they accuse of displaying the same intolerance. But India Today will continue to highlight these stories of hypocrisy and fight for these youngsters who've been punished for voicing their views. With Ritik Mondal in Kolkata, Bureau Report, India Today.
Wrapping up this bulletin for now, you can always log on to indiatoday.in for all the latest or download the application on your phones. Thank you for watching.
Who is India's most valued celebrity? Nope, not her and not him either. Hrithik Roshan has retained his spot in the latest rankings at number 10 with a net worth of 368 crores. Their worth has been derived from their endorsement contracts. Ayushmann Khurrana has come a long way from his roadies days and developed an amazing brand value for himself, but in this list, he has dropped to the 9th spot from 6th, where he was in 2020. There is hardly a tops list which doesn't feature his name. Salman Khan's name features on this list at number 8. Deepika Padukone continues to rule the Indian film industry and her brand value continues to grow. She is tied with Salman Khan in brand value but is 2 places lower than her position in 2020. Big B climbed up in the rankings from 9th place in 2020 to 6th position with a brand value of 411 crores. Dhoni continues to enjoy a huge following and has brilliantly transitioned himself out of his pure cricketing image. Even after his retirement from international cricket, Dhoni continues to boast more than 25 brands in his portfolio spread across different industries. There was a huge spike in his value from 36.3 million in 2020 to 61.2 million in 2021. Alia Bhatt is the youngest celebrity in the top 10 list and is now the most valued brand among female actors in India.
Welcome, you're watching In The Club. I am Dipali Patel. This is where we get you all the latest updates from the world of entertainment. First up, the makers of Brahmastra have finally released the trailer of Ranbir Kapoor and Alia Bhatt starrer. Ayan Mukherjee's dream project also stars Amitabh Bachchan, Nagarjun and Moni Roy in pivotal roles. The film is all set to roll out in theatres on September 9th. Here's everything you need to know. Love.
कौन हो तुम? क्या हो तुम?
There is drama.
शिवा, तुम्हारा हाथ?
ईशा, मैं आग से जलता नहीं। कुछ रिश्ता है मेरा आग से। आग मुझे जलाती नहीं।
There is action. And there's also a whole lot of visual effects one cannot seem to ignore.